The night shift on Space Station Orion was usually quiet. Most crew members were asleep and only the essential staff remained at their posts. Communications Officer Leah Brooks sat at her station, eyes heavy from the long hours. The soft hum of equipment filled the room as she sipped her third cup of coffee. Then it happened. Her headset crackled with strange sounds. At first she thought it was just space noise, random signals bouncing between stars, but this was different. This had a pattern. Leah turned up the volume and adjusted the frequency. The sound became clearer. It wasn't random at all. It was a voice. A voice not from Earth or any human colony. "What the hell?" she whispered. The neural interface on her console flashed as it tried to make sense of the sounds. After several seconds, words appeared on her screen. "Help us. Please." Leah's hands shook as she pressed the emergency button. A red light flashed above her station. Within minutes, Commander Daniel Wright rushed into the communications room, his gray uniform wrinkled from sleep. "This better be important, Brooks," he said, but stopped when he saw her face. "Sir, I think you need to hear this." She played the message again. Wright's face turned pale as the words appeared on screen. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. After centuries of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. And it wasn't a friendly greeting. It was a cry for help. "Verify the source," Wright ordered. Leah's fingers moved quickly across her console. "It's coming from the Vega sector, sir. About 40 light-years away." Wright nodded and picked up the secure line to Earth Command. "This is Commander Wright from Station Orion. We have a situation that requires immediate attention." For the next 24 hours, Station Orion was in lockdown. No messages went out and no one was allowed to contact friends or family on Earth. The signal was classified at the highest level. 3 days later, as government officials on Earth still argued about what to do, a second message arrived. This time, it wasn't just words. It included images. Leah, Commander Wright, and the station's senior staff gathered in the main conference room to view the transmission. The large screen on the wall showed grainy footage of tall, slender beings with blue-tinted skin running through what looked like a city. Above them, dark ships with sharp, angular edges moved through the sky. The footage showed these ships firing weapons. Buildings collapsed. The blue-skinned people fell and didn't get up again. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. "They're being wiped out," said Dr. Alan Foster, the station's science officer. His voice was barely above a whisper. The footage continued for several minutes, showing different cities, all facing the same fate. The attacking ships moved with perfect coordination, leaving nothing but destruction behind them. "These aliens, whoever sent the message, they're advanced," said Security Chief Megan Powell. "Look at their cities, their technology, but they're still losing. Badly." Commander Wright watched the footage with hard eyes. After 20 years in defense, he recognized efficient killing when he saw it. This isn't random. The attackers are methodical. They're not just winning a war, they're eliminating an entire species. On Earth, the Security Council gathered in their underground chamber beneath Geneva. Representatives from all major nations sat around a large, circular table, watching the same footage. The room was silent except for the sounds of destruction coming from the speakers. Admiral Catherine Morgan stood at the head of the table. Her hair was steel gray, cut short in military style. She had fought in 3 Earth conflicts, and now served as head of the United Defense Forces. As the footage ended, she looked at each council member in turn. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice firm and clear, "we've spent centuries looking at the stars, wondering if we're alone. Now we know we're not." She pointed to the frozen image on the screen. "And we know something else. There are predators out there. And they've just shown us what happens to the weak." The council room erupted in voices. Some called for caution, others for immediate action. A few suggested sending diplomats to try to negotiate peace between the unknown species. "Negotiate?" Admiral Morgan's voice cut through the noise. "Did you not see the same footage I did? These attackers aren't interested in talking. They're interested in extermination." "What do you suggest, Admiral?" asked the council president. "We answer the call," Morgan said simply. We send help. We can't possibly reach them in time, said the representative from Japan. Even our fastest ships would take years to travel. 40 light years. Morgan's lips curved in a small smile. Not our regular ships, no, but Project Nemesis is ready. A shocked silence filled the room. Project Nemesis was the military's best-kept secret, a fleet of advanced warships designed for deep space combat, built in case humanity ever faced a threat from beyond Earth. You want to reveal our most advanced military technology to unknown aliens? Asked the Chinese representative. I want to respond to a cry for help, Morgan answered. And I want to show these predators that not all species are easy prey. She looked around the table again. We have a choice. We can hide and hope these killers never find Earth, or we can show them that if they want to hunt sentient beings, they picked the wrong galaxy. Humans know a thing or two about war. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would answer the call, but not with diplomats, not with scholars, not with peacekeepers. They would send their killers. Deep under the Rocky Mountains in North America, behind thick steel doors and armed guards, Project Nemesis waited. Few people knew it existed, and even fewer knew what it really was. While the public watched progress on space stations and colony, ships the military quietly built something else. Warships. 6 of them designed not for exploration or research, but for battle among the stars. For 30 years, military leaders hoped these ships would never be needed. Now, they were Earth's best hope. Prepare the USS Vengeance for immediate launch, Admiral Morgan ordered as she walked through the massive underground hangar. Above her, a black ship hung in its docking clamps. Unlike other human ships with their boxy shapes, the Vengeance was sleek and sharp, like a knife made for cutting through space. The Vengeance had special technology that made it almost invisible to enemy sensors. It also had weapons more powerful than anything civilians knew existed. It was built for one purpose: to fight and win against threats from space. Captain Jack Miller stood in his quarters on the ship, looking at his orders. At 45, with gray starting to show in his short brown hair, Miller had spent his life fighting. First as a soldier in Earth Special Forces, then as a ship captain, but he had always fought other humans. Now he would fight something else entirely. Captain to the bridge, said a voice over the speakers. The bridge of the Vengeance was a circle of screens and control stations, with the captain's chair in the center. Miller sat down as his crew hurried to their posts. Status report, he said. Ship is ready for launch, sir, said Lieutenant Amy Garcia. At 32, Garcia was the ship's tactical officer, the person in charge of fighting. She knew 15 different ways to fight with her body, and many more with the ship's weapons. Navigation systems are online, reported Officer Gregory. Palmer, who sat at the front of the bridge. Palmer was the youngest crew member at 26, but his understanding of space travel was better than most scientists twice his age. Science Division ready, said Officer Olivia Nash from her station. Nash had studied alien life forms for years, though most of her work was so secret that even other scientists hadn't seen it. Weapons systems at full capacity, said Weapons. Master Benjamin Cole. Cole had built most of the ship's weapons himself. His work was so advanced and dangerous that the FBI always watched him, worried about what he might create next. Miller nodded and looked at his crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, handpicked for this mission. I want everyone to understand what we're doing, he said. We're not explorers going to make friends with aliens. We're not diplomats trying to make peace. We're soldiers responding to a threat that thinks it's okay to wipe out entire species. Our job is to find who sent the distress signal, see what's happening, and stop the attackers by any means necessary. No one spoke, but everyone nodded. They had all watched the footage from the alien transmission. They had all seen the slaughter. We launch in 30 minutes, Miller said. Prepare for departure. 3 days later, the Vengeance left Earth's solar system. The ship's new warp drive bent space around it, allowing it to travel faster than light. Even so, the journey to the Vega sector would take 6 months. As Earth disappeared behind them, the crew settled into a routine. Every day they trained for battle. They practiced shooting weapons, fixing damaged ship systems, and treating wounds. Miller had them run through combat simulations again and again until they could do everything without thinking. They also studied the alien footage, looking for any clues about the attackers. How did their ships move? What weapons did they use? What were their weaknesses? Their attack patterns showed they're very organized, Lieutenant Garcia said during one briefing. They move like they've done this many times before. The way they target cities first suggests they want to eliminate command centers and large population groups quickly, Cole added, pointing to the screen. Classic military strategy. Nash spent hours analyzing the blue-skinned aliens who had sent the message. Based on their body structure and the design of their cities, they seem to be a peaceful species. I don't see evidence of major weapons or military facilities. As the weeks passed, Miller noticed something no one was talking about, a question that hung in the air during every briefing. If these attackers could destroy an advanced alien civilization so easily, what chance did humans have against them? Miller called a special meeting after dinner one evening. When all his officers were seated in the briefing room, he stood at the front and looked at each of them. "We need to talk about the elephant in the room," he said. "We're heading toward an enemy that has technology advanced enough to travel between stars and wipe out entire civilizations. We don't know if our weapons will work against them. We don't know if our ship can stand up to theirs." The room was silent. Then Garcia spoke. "Up. With all due respect, sir, that's not entirely true. We know one thing they don't." "What's that, Lieutenant?" Miller asked. "They've never fought humans before," she said with a small smile. "They've been hunting peaceful species that don't fight back. We're something different." Miller nodded slowly. "That's right. Throughout our history, humans have been fighting each other, our environment, our own limitations. Violence isn't new to us, it's what we do best. The perfect predator isn't the strongest," Nash added. "It's the one that adapts. That's what humans do. We adapt." "And we know something else," said Cole. "We know they're coming. They don't know about us." Miller looked around at his crew and saw determination replacing fear in their eyes. They had a long journey ahead, but for the first time he felt like they might have a chance. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow we train harder." After 6 months of travel through the emptiness of space, the USS Vengeance finally reached its destination. Captain Miller stood on the bridge as Officer Palmer slowed the ship. "Dropping out of warp in 3, 2, 1, Palmer said, his hands moving across the control panel. The stars outside the view screen changed from streaks back to dots as the ship returned to normal space. What they saw made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Pieces of broken ships and space stations floated everywhere around them. It was like a giant hand had crushed an entire civilization and scattered the pieces across space. Below them, a planet burned. Huge fires were still visible on its surface, sending clouds of smoke into the atmosphere. "My God," whispered Officer Nash, the first to find her voice. "Scan for life signs," Miller ordered, his face hard. Lieutenant Garcia worked at her station. "Nothing on the planet, sir. Wait, I'm picking up something." She looked up, surprised. "There's a ship out there. It's damaged, but still has power. And there are life signs on board." "Where?" Miller asked. Garcia pointed to a spot on the view screen. "There, among the debris." Miller nodded. "Approach with caution. Weapons ready. Shields up." The Vengeance moved slowly through the field of broken ships toward the signal. As they got closer, they saw a small vessel about half the size of their own. Its sleek design reminded Miller of sea creatures from Earth, with smooth curves instead of hard angles. One side was badly damaged, showing black burn marks from weapon fire. "No signs of weapons powering up," Garcia reported. "Their engines are barely working. They couldn't run even if they wanted to." "Open a channel," Miller ordered. Officer Nash shook her head. "Our communication systems aren't compatible with theirs, but..." She worked at her station for a moment. "I'm picking up visual signals. They're trying to talk to us with light patterns. Give me a minute to set up a translation program." After several tense minutes, Nash spoke again. "I think I've got it, sir. They're asking if we received their message. They want to know if we're here to help. Miller thought for a moment. Tell them yes. Ask if they can receive visitors. We need to talk face to face. 20 minutes later, Miller led a small team to the alien ship. Nash came to handle communication, and Garcia came for security. They wore spacesuits with helmets that could protect them from unknown atmospheres or diseases. The alien ship's airlock opened to let them in. Inside, the air was thinner than Earth's, but breathable. The corridors were taller and wider than human ships with strange writing on the walls that glowed with soft blue light. Stay alert, Miller told his team as they moved deeper into the ship. They found the survivors in what seemed to be the ship's main control room. There were 27 of them, tall beings with blue-tinted skin just like in the transmission video. They had 4 arms instead of 2, and their skin seemed almost see-through, showing light moving through their bodies like glowing rivers. One of them stepped forward. Unlike the others who wore simple clothes, this one had a robe with patterns that reminded Miller of star maps. I am a Lyra, the alien said, its voice coming through Nash's translation device as a soft musical sound. Leader of what remains of the Lyraean people. You received our message. Miller nodded. I'm Captain Jack Miller of the Earth ship Vengeance. We came as soon as we could. Elira's large eyes blinked slowly. You are very different from us, from any species we have met. We're human, Miller said simply. What happened here? Elira's body dimmed slightly, the lights under its skin growing darker. The Krath Dominion happened. They came without warning or reason. They attacked all our worlds at once. Nash stepped forward. Why? What did they want? They wanted our extinction, Elira said. The Krath believe they are the only form of life worthy to exist in this galaxy. They hunt other intelligent species, not for resources, not for territory, simply because we exist. Miller looked out a nearby window at the destroyed planet below. How many of your people survived? From a civilization of billions? Elira's voice grew softer. We 27 are all that remain. This was our main research vessel. We were far from home when the attacks began. By the time we returned, it was too late to save anyone. Garcia spoke up. How many ships did the Krath have? What kind of weapons did they use? They had hundreds of ships, Elira said. Their weapons, we had never seen anything like them. They cut through our strongest shields like they weren't there. You didn't fight back? Miller asked. Elira seemed confused by the question. We were scientists and explorers. We had defense systems for protection against space debris and solar radiation, but nothing that could be called weapons. In our 1,000 years of space travel, we never needed them. Until now, Miller said quietly. Nash worked with Elira over the next few hours, setting up systems so they could share information. The Lyraeans transferred everything they knew about the Krath, their ships, their technology, their movements. The Lyraeans' scientific knowledge was far beyond Earth's, but they had never developed weapons or military tactics. They scanned for energy signatures, Elira explained, showing them a map of Krath movements. That's how they find civilizations. Then they attack all major population centers at once. They are very thorough. They haven't found Earth yet? Miller asked. No. Your world is in a part of the galaxy they haven't reached. But they will, eventually. They always do. Miller looked at Garcia. Have they detected us? Garcia checked her scanner. Not yet, sir. Our cloaking technology is working. But Elira is right. They'll be back to make sure they didn't miss any survivors. Good, Miller said, his voice determined. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Elira's body flashed with surprise, the lights under its skin pulsing. You want them to come back? Why? Miller looked at the alien leader. Because we came here to help, and the best way to help isn't just to save the 27 of you. It's to make sure the Krath never do this to anyone else. But how? Elira asked. Their ships are more advanced than yours. Their weapons are stronger. Miller smiled for the first time since entering the Lyraean ship. Maybe. But there's something you need to understand about humans, Elira. Throughout our history, we've faced enemies who were stronger, faster, and better armed, and we've learned that superior technology isn't always enough. What else is there? Elira asked. The willingness to fight, Miller answered. And trust me, we're very willing. For 2 weeks, the USS Vengeance stayed hidden at the edge of the destroyed Lyraean system. The ship's cloaking technology kept them invisible to any sensors that might be scanning the area. Captain Miller used this time to prepare for the battle he knew was coming. They'll be back, he told his officers during a meeting in the ship's command center. The Krath will return to make sure they killed everyone. That's when we'll strike. During those 2 weeks, the crew of the Vengeance worked closely with the Lyraean survivors. Despite their losses, the Lyraeans were eager to help. They shared everything they knew about the Krath, their ships, their weapons, their tactics. The Krath rely on their technology, Elira explained as she showed Miller and Garcia a hologram of a Krath warship. The ship was much larger than the Vengeance, with sharp angles and weapons ports along its sides. They believe their ships and weapons make them unstoppable. Every weapon has a weakness, Garcia said, studying the hologram. We just need to find it. Weapons Master Cole spent days working with the Lyran's data, modifying the Vengeance's weapons. Their shields operate on a frequency we can target, he explained to Miller. If we adjust our weapons to that exact frequency, we might be able to cut right through them. Navigation Officer Palmer studied the Krath's movement patterns. They always follow the same attack formation, he said, pointing to a simulation on his screen. They never expect their targets to fight back with any real skill, so they don't bother changing tactics. Science Officer Nash learned more about the Krath themselves. They're an old species, she told Miller. They've been hunting other civilizations for thousands of years. They believe it's their right, even their duty, to cleanse the galaxy of what they call lesser life forms. Lieutenant Garcia trained the crew in new combat techniques, focusing on moves the Krath would never have seen before. Surprise is our best weapon, she said. They won't expect humans to fight like we do. On the 15th day, the Vengeance's sensors picked up 3 large ships entering the system. Krath patrol vessels, Elira confirmed, looking at the scanner. They're coming to check for survivors. Miller nodded. Right on time. Everyone to battle stations. The Krath ships moved slowly through the debris field, scanning for any signs of life. They were massive vessels, each one 4 times the size of the Vengeance. Their dark hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. Miller watched them on the view screen. Begin Operation Ambush, he ordered. Nash, is the bait ready? Nash nodded. Yes, sir. The Lyrans helped us set up a small transmitter on what's left of their research station. It's sending a weak distress signal now. Palmer, move us into position, Miller said. Stay in the shadow of that destroyed moon. Keep the cloaking system active. The Vengeance glided silently through space, positioning itself beneath the largest Krath ship. On the view screen, they could see the Krath vessel changing course, moving toward the fake distress signal. They've detected the bait, Garcia reported. The lead ship is moving to investigate. The other 2 are holding position. Miller leaned forward in his chair. Wait for my signal. He watched as the Krath ship approached the ruined research station. Cole, are weapons locked on target? Yes, sir, Cole replied from the weapons station. Modified torpedoes ready, targeting their main engine and shield generators. The Krath ship stopped above the research station. A beam of light shot out from its underside, scanning the wreckage. Now, Miller said. The Vengeance dropped its cloak and fired 6 torpedoes in rapid succession. The first 2 hit the Krath ship's engines, causing a massive explosion of blue fire. The next 4 torpedoes struck the shield generators, leaving the massive vessel defenseless. Direct hits, Cole shouted. Their shields are down. The other 2 Krath ships immediately changed course, moving to attack the Vengeance. Evasive action, Miller ordered. Palmer's hands flew across his control panel and the Vengeance shot upward, narrowly avoiding a blast of energy from one of the Krath ships. The human vessel was much smaller but also much faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons are powerful but slow to aim, Palmer said, as he guided the ship through a series of tight turns. Keep moving, Miller told him. Don't let them lock onto us. The Vengeance spun and dived, moving in patterns the Krath had never seen before. While the Krath ships tried to target the human vessel, Garcia fired the Vengeance's weapons at their weak points. One of the Krath ships exploded as a torpedo found its way to the main reactor. The force of the blast pushed the Vengeance sideways, but Palmer quickly regained control. One down, one damaged, one to go, Miller said, gripping the arms of his chair as the ship shook from a near miss. The damaged Krath ship turned away, trying to escape, but Cole fired again, hitting its engines. The massive vessel drifted helplessly in space. The third Krath ship, the largest of the three, continued its attack. It fired a new weapon, a beam of red energy that cut through space toward the Vengeance. Hard to port, Miller shouted. Palmer turned the ship sharply, but the beam grazed their side. Warning lights flashed on the bridge as systems reported damage. Hull breach on Deck 3, Nash reported. Emergency force fields are holding. Miller looked at the massive Krath ship on the view screen. Time to end this. Garcia, prepare the boarding teams. Garcia looked surprised. Sir, we're going to board their ship? That's right, Miller said. Cole, target their bridge with everything we've got. Create a hole for our teams to enter. We're going to capture their command center. The Vengeance circled the Krath ship, firing repeatedly at one spot until the hull broke open. Garcia led 3 teams of soldiers in armored spacesuits through the breach and into the enemy vessel. The fighting inside the Krath ship was fierce, but short. Krath were not used to hand-to-hand combat. They relied too much on their technology, and when faced with trained human soldiers, they didn't stand a chance. Garcia's voice came through Miller's communicator 30 minutes later. Bridge secured, sir. Most of the Krath crew is dead. We have their commander. Bring him to our ship, Miller ordered. An hour later, the Krath commander stood in the Vengeance's holding cell. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, with bone-white armor covering his body. His face was harsh and angular, with 4 black eyes that glared at Miller. What are you? The Krath demanded, his voice deep and harsh through the translation device. Miller stepped closer to the cell. We're human, from Earth. Impossible, the Krath said. We have mapped all advanced species in this sector. There are no spacefaring civilizations in that region. There are now, Miller replied. And unlike the Lyrans, we don't just explore space. We know how to fight. The Krath commander stared at Miller. For the first time, there was uncertainty in his 4 black eyes. This changes nothing, he said finally. You destroyed 3 ships. The Dominion has hundreds more. When they learn what happened here, they will find your world and destroy it completely. Miller smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Because now we know how to fight you, and next time we'll be ready. The Vengeance returned to Earth with the Lyraean survivors and a special passenger, the captured Krath commander. The ship docked at the secret lunar base where Admiral Morgan was waiting. Welcome back, Captain, Morgan said as Miller stepped off the ship. I see your mission was successful. Miller nodded. We found the source of the distress signal. We also found the enemy. He glanced back at the Krath commander, who was being led away by armed guards. And we brought you a sample. For the next week, Earth's leaders questioned the Krath commander. What they learned was disturbing. The Krath Dominion had destroyed dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. They had hundreds of warships, all more advanced than anything humans had built. And now Earth was on their list of targets. Your resistance is meaningless, the Krath commander told Admiral Morgan during one questioning session. The Dominion will send everything they have to find your world. When they do, they will destroy it completely. Morgan looked at the alien, without fear. That's a risk we'll have to take. Morgan met with the Security Council the next day. The Krath are coming, she told them. We don't know when, but they're coming. We have 2 choices. Hide and hope they never find us, or prepare to fight. The vote was quick and unanimous. Earth would fight. Project Nemesis is now fully activated, Morgan told Miller later that day. All 6 warships are being deployed. We're building 30 more based on what we learned from your battle. All across Earth, things began to change. Military recruitment centers were filled with volunteers. Weapons factories worked day and night. The Lyraean survivors worked with human scientists, sharing their advanced knowledge. For the first time, their scientific skills were being used to create weapons. 6 months passed. Then on a quiet Tuesday morning, the sensors at Earth's outer defense stations picked up a large group of ships entering the solar system. It was what everyone had been waiting for and fearing. The Krath invasion fleet had arrived. Admiral Morgan stood on the bridge of the newly built HSS Retribution, Earth's largest warship. Beside her was Captain Miller, now promoted to Admiral, with Lieutenant Garcia as his second-in-command. On the main screen, they could see the Krath fleet, 50 massive warships moving toward Earth. They had come to do what they had done to the Lyrians and many others before them, to wipe out humanity completely. "Open a channel to the Krath fleet," Miller ordered. When the connection was made, Miller spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Admiral Jack Miller of the Human Defense Fleet. You've spent centuries killing species that couldn't fight back, but you've never faced humans before. There was no response from the Krath. You should know something about us," Miller continued. "We've spent our entire history fighting, ourselves, our environment, our limitations. Violence isn't something new to us. It's in our blood." The Krath ships continued forward, weapons charging. Miller looked at Garcia. "Begin the attack." Earth's fleet moved to meet the Krath. Not just the 6 original Nemesis ships, but 30 new warships, all built using knowledge gained from the first battle. They had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. The battle was long and hard. Krath ships were powerful, but humans fought with a determination the Krath had never seen before. Where other species had surrendered or tried to run, humans attacked. Where others had been scientific or peaceful, humans had studied war for thousands of years. In the end, the Krath fleet retreated, leaving nearly half their ships destroyed or damaged. It was something that had never happened before in their long history of hunting other species. For the first time, the predators had become the prey. In the months that followed, Earth made contact with other species hiding from the Krath. A new alliance began to form, not just for scientific exchange, but for protection. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as explorers or diplomats, but as defenders. The species that had spent its history fighting now used that skill to protect others who couldn't protect themselves. "We answered one cry for help," Admiral Morgan told the United Nations as representatives from several alien species looked on. "And we found our purpose. Humanity has unleashed its killers, not for conquest, but to stand between the innocent and those who would destroy them." Throughout the galaxy, a new message began to spread. When predators come, call for Earth. Call for the humans. Call for the species that turns hunters into the hunted. The end.